Late Night Wednesday on TV5.
The latest on the San Francisco earthquake tonight.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
This is that time in the wake of a disaster when we want desperately, sometimes almost hopelessly, to believe in the possibility of miracles, in the notion that perhaps somehow someone has survived what seems to be unsurvivable. And indeed, there was just such a story this evening. Some reports earlier on this evening that someone had miraculously survived the collapse of that section of freeway leading up to the Bay Bridge in San Francisco on the Oakland side. And now we pick up, in effect, where Peter Jennings left off just half an hour ago. Every once in a while, as when Hurricane Hugo ravaged a stretch of the East Coast along the Carolinas, or when little Jessica McClure fell down that well in Texas, every once in a while, there is a story that binds us together in a spirit of national identity, that sense of there but for the grace of God go I, or one of mine. The earthquake has had that kind of impact. Indeed, it has engaged the empathy and compassion of people around the world. Mikhail Gorbachev sent a message of condolence to the White House. Similar messages have come in from the Vatican and the United Nations and capitals around the world. Strange how disasters draw us together in a way that good news rarely does. Wherever in these United States we call home, we have all been talking today about California and the earthquake. Here's Nightline correspondent Jeff Greenfield.
It's been a frightening scene here. As you can see, just below me is where this crack in the Bay Bridge occurred. A 50-foot.
I do believe that there are some deaths, but no one can tell me how many.
We're urging people to stay home, not get in their cars, or get home through back streets if they're trying to go.
What we saw was eerie and frankly frightening. People on the streets, people unfocused.
Minutes after the earthquake knocked San Francisco's TV stations off the air last night, they were back on the air, telling the story to those most affected by it.
If you're at all uncertain about what to do, if you smell gas in your immediate area, you're not sure how to turn it off, open up the phone book and look at the instructions. And they're very clear. You don't need a lot of fancy tools.
But it has also been the big, indeed the only story across the country.
Good evening. Anyone who has ever lived in San Francisco will tell you this is the nightmare you pray will never happen.
Hardest hit was San Francisco, where the quake collapsed buildings and a section of the Bay Bridge.
It's been measured as up to 7 on the Richter scale, and that makes it the strongest land-based earthquake since the 1950s.
And even on the other side of the world, TV viewers who thought they would be watching the American World Series stayed to watch the unfolding of an American tragedy. Just as shockwaves radiate hundreds of miles from the epicenter of an earthquake, so emotional shockwaves radiate thousands of miles from the site of a disaster, connecting us by ties of compassion, concern, or fear.
Dateline San Francisco, April 18th, 1906.
Back in 1906, before the days of radio or TV or easy coast-to-coast communication, it took weeks for film of the great San Francisco earthquake to make its way east. And those beyond the immediate region had to wait until the newspapers rolled to learn of the disaster.
Across the city, there was tremendous damage, fires breaking out as gas and power lines broke apart.
But today, a local news event becomes a worldwide news event instantaneously.
В 1906 году Сан-Франциско потряс толчок силой.
If you have reached anybody in the Bay Area by telephone in the past 24 hours, give me a call and tell me what they're reporting.
In newsrooms across America, editors and producers looked for the local angle.
Chronology of the worst quakes, reaction from people around here.
Or relatives or friends trapped in the earthquake.
With communications cut off, it was a long night of worrying and waiting for word from loved ones.
Stories of transcontinental rescue, as when an Oakland woman trapped in a high-rise building called her daughter in Virginia, who in turn called Fairfax police for help.
And we put together a teletype and sent it not only to the Oakland Police Department, but the Alameda Police Department as well, advising them of the lady's plight. As a result, the lady was rescued along with 2 other people in the building and is safe and well.
For answers to the question, could it happen here?
There's no question that a quake of this size in this town would be a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, also I mean, we put that quake in New York and we've got 10 times the...
Yeah, I mean,
Well, of course, the Chicago area is not immune to an earthquake, as we all know, though other natural disasters, such as floods and tornadoes, are more likely in the Midwest.
Memphis, Tennessee. Few of the buildings here are earthquake resistant, and that concerns people who live and work in downtown buildings.
For advice, what to do if you face a disaster.
Eyewitness News is offering a free earthquake survival guide. This guide includes information on how to prepare yourself and your family if the big quake should hit here.
Worries over the local fallout from the San Francisco earthquake, as in this report from Charleston, South Carolina, recently hit by Hurricane Hugo.
The California tragedy has put an unexpected burden on federal resources that we need in the Lowcountry.
It is as if the astonishing capacity of mass media to wipe out barriers of distance also wipes out a sense of protection.
Look at this.
Oh my gosh.
As if we might have been driving down that highway that fell in upon hundreds. As if we are living in a community where, literally, the roof has fallen in. In times past, people would look at a distant disaster and declare, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." In these times, God's grace is not enough to shield us from the sense that we are all living through days and nights when the earth falls from beneath our feet. Jeff Greenfield for Nightline in New York.
And when we come back, we'll go live to locations in the San Francisco Bay Area and elsewhere in Northern California that were especially hard hit by the quake.
This is ABC News Nightline.